Government came to power, the perception was that during UPA there was a lot of policy paralysis, bureaucrats were not working. But in terms of the economic delivery, in terms of economic policies, do you really think that the way you had planned and you've delivered it?
Absolutely, and you can see in the total UPA regime, the GDP growth had shrunk to about 4.5%, 4%.
Right.
We have absolutely, the moment the government came into power, we have jumped to 7.4. Even in one of the quarters, we were higher than China.
Right.
And we are targeting a 9% growth, and we want to touch the two-digit mark in the next 5 years. So what we are talking is this real wealth creation in this country.
Why does a senior BJP ideologue like Mr. Arun Shourie say that the economy is directionless? There has to be a reason why
he may be having ideas. I would not like to confront him. He's a knowledgeable man. But he gave more of a political touch to his arguments than on merit. So I would not like to get into that. But when you say
political touch, what does it mean?
That is a different issue, because I would not like to address it here. But he gave a political touch to the issue when he talked about individuals. You see, the country voted for the Prime Minister, and the country has reposed faith in the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has to draw the roadmap in the next 4 years and to deliver. We are on the delivery path. We are talking about reforms, so we are moving ahead in those directions. We are talking about issues which the country needs to go in: infrastructure, industry, manufacturing, social services, inclusion, financial inclusion. Or this is a frame what we are talking about.
But Mr. Rudy, taking you away from the economic front to the political part of the government in the last 1 year, people have been saying that, or I'm going to ask you honestly as a minister, there is a perception that probably the ministers are not getting too much of an autonomy to do things.
Who says this?
Because it's just a few set of people who are running
this?
The party or the government.
You see, this is a perception. I am a part of the cabinet. My boss is the Prime Minister.
Right.
There could have been governments earlier who did not bother about the Prime Minister, or the Prime Minister did not bother about the cabinet ministers or the ministers working in the government. That was a different government.
Right.
Here we are on a day-to-day dialogue with the Prime Minister.
Right.
On small issues we take directions. So if I want to interact and take directions from my Prime Minister, that's my job. And where does it come that if the Prime Minister talks to you twice or thrice in a day, and if he wants certain issues to be sorted out and he holds meeting to sort out your issues? For example, I have been given an assignment in the Ministry of Skill Development.
Right.
Now, skill development across the country in the union government has been happening in 24 ministries. So possibly the Prime Minister felt that it's not standardized, it's spread across, so he got me there. He got me there, then he gave me a certain mandate, then he felt that certain other issues, for example,
but
ITIs.
You don't in any way believe that the Prime Minister's functioning is dictatorial or autocratic?
I think these are wrong words being used.
Okay.
Giving directions, doing consultations, interacting with the ministers. Every day the corporates have the chief executives lined up and they have a review. If the Prime Minister interacts with us, and we are so happy that at least I can pick up my phone at even 2 o'clock in the night and say, I want to talk to the Prime Minister. This has never happened in the history of independent India.
But that is talking to the ministers. But is enough of talking happening?
You're talking about ministers and government.
Yeah.
So this thing is being talked about ministers and the government.
Yes. No, I'm coming to the talking part.
Look at Piyush Goyal, look at Nirmala, look at Rajiv Pratap, look at Ravi Shankar. Everyone is working overtime and they say, we have to prove it to the country. We have to deliver.
Right.
On the other front, 1 year passed, not a single charge of corruption, not a single charge of misbehavior by politicians, misuse of power, misuse of position. This is what the country had been looking for. We have become a face of a government which belongs to the people. Now these changes, which is visible to the nation, is creating anxiety in those people who used to move in the corridors of power, liaising.
Right.
Today, if this country has an NPA of 3,50,000 crores, and we say no more NPAs in the banks, let's start looking how these people became rich. That doesn't mean that you start raising voice. The country will not be run as it was being run earlier. So
you're hinting at the fact that mostly all the ministers are working in a mission mode since the time the government has been formed.
Much more than that. On a human front, on a personal front, on an emotional front, on an administrative front, on the economic front, on running the ministry, on international front.
But when you are in a mission mode 24/7, or I would say 365 days,
we have to make up for what has not been done for so many years.
But aren't the ministers over fatigued? And probably
no, it's okay.
The slackness will come in at some point
Does not matter. Let me get over fatigued. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
This country with 1,260 million people, and we have got that mind. let me die working, doesn't matter. How does it matter? We are not great souls to be born. How does it matter if we have to get fatigued working? We'll recoup.
Okay.
But at least we'll not recoup, not performing in parliament, vanishing for 2 months, and then coming back and giving a speech which is faulty like Amethi Food Park, and making a statement, laying a foundation stone and trying to support an industrialist who ran away from there because he did not want to make a food park. At least we will not do all these things. We'll work, and if a prime minister travels abroad, we ministers are working here, and he's visible every 7 days, every minute he's there telling you what he's doing. So why are those people restless about this government working? I think there is a growing restlessness about this government working overtime.
But you're talking about this restlessness, but I'll bring it in another context. There are perceptions, and people have started talking about the fact that, of course, the NDA government has done extremely well as far as the foreign policy is concerned.
Not all, yes,
foreign policy, they've done extremely well, and that's one count where they've just excelled. But there are people who are getting annoyed by overexposure of the Prime Minister on international.
We do not. Oh, come on. Now, if the Prime Minister...
There are reports that people from within the RSS, have expressed this fact.
I do not know. Tell me one single quote from one single person who would have said. This restlessness, because this country and those people who are building this noise have lived with a Prime Minister who never used to speak, never used to move, never used to travel, never used to take decisions, allow the scams to happen. He was honest, but he used to allow a 2 lakh crore or 3 lakh crore scam to happen. This is not happening. So this is creating restlessness in all those people. They said about that coal scam. They said it's notional. How come we auction only 30 coal blocks and we get 2 lakhs crores? We auction certain amount of spectrum. We already get that. So whatever was happening, we have changed the paradigm of running the government.
But Mr. Rudy, according to you, what has been the lowest point of the last 1 year's journey?
I don't think there is any low point. It's all high points.
But what you mean to say that there has not been a single moment where the government or the BJP as a party got embarrassed?
No, absolutely not. Not faltered.
But what about pronouncements like from ministers like Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti, Giriraj Singh?
You see,
where do they figure in the scheme of things in the party?
This is a political issue, and they have their own conviction. They speak certain things, and if it's not right for the country, they are not. They have made statements which possibly they have thought that this is, they have thought about it. But if that does not reflect well with the government of the day, we say, no, you can't speak these things. This country belongs to all. This belongs to all minorities, the Hindus, the Muslims, the Christians, the Sikhs, everyone.
But what about a palpable silence on the attacks on churches? We've not seen...
Where attacks on churches?
You
remember that father from the south, whom we picked up from Taliban, who was not there for 1 year.
Right.
He's a father, some Sudhir or some father. This was Indian government. From the Talibanis, we get him out, and he comes and speaks in favor of the government. Churches, if you get into the churches who are being attacked...
No,
what on
churches?
Absolutely wrong. Have you checked up the history of the churches? Who attacked the church in Uttar Pradesh? Who attacked some of the churches? These are people, and I don't commit me. There are other minorities who are fighting the Christians across the world. They are the minorities who are fighting the Christians in India. Why doesn't this particular Christian minority come forward and say that these are the other minorities who are the ISIS of the world? They are fighting the world on the name of that fundamentalism. They are attacking them. I can give you, I don't want to get into this.
But you mean to say that there is no sense of insecurity
amongst the
minorities?
government of the day has said that law and order, we absolutely would make no compromise. Every Indian, be it whichever religion, whichever faith and belief, under the constitution, we have faith in him. He would be allowed to pursue his faith, but that should be for the country, for the commitment to the country. It cannot be guided by foreign forces.
But Mr. Rudy, what has perplexed the political observers and the analysts so far in 1 year's journey is the fact that when BJP and the government go together, there is a parallel narrative which is running. RSS leaders say something, then the government keeps mum. I'm taking you a little earlier.
You see,
than what
RSS, please do not. RSS does not interfere.
India is a nation of Hindus.
Well, individuals, I don't think this is a right statement. And Hindus, and if you go to the Supreme Court ruling which says Hinduism is a way of life, and you have to look into this interpretation. No one says in India only Hindus will live. Right. Absolutely wrong. And if you say RSS people say it, it's still more than...
No, because it came from Mohan Bhagwatji's statement.
That was an interpretation of a different pretext. What we are talking today is building up India, Indians. And the Indian government first looks as every individual as Indians first.
Okay.
Nationalist Indians. And we have to make this country to be the topmost in next 5 years.
Mr. Rudy, another which the political observers felt that it was a political mistake on the part of the government was Narendra Modi ji wearing the monogram suit, and it was being talked about. Later it was auctioned. Do you really think that it was a political mistake? It shouldn't have been displayed the way it was?
You see, I come from Chapla in Bihar. I contest and defeat Lalu Yadav or his wife Rabdi Devi. You have any problems of me? I wear my clothes as I desire, and I wear some clothes in a conference of CII or FICCI or SOCHAM. I meet international delegates and I wear a particular uniform. If I go to the Rashtrapati Bhavan, I wear a Bandh Kala. There could be uniforms in particular ways in which you wear. You would like to look decent. So this is a government which also wears suits.
But again, as Arun Shourie says, that you can't talk about Gandhi and wear a monogram suit.
Yes, we also wear kurtas, we also wear jackets, we also wear bandis, we also wear that. Let's not get into the clothes of things. Let's get into the fabric of the nation as far as building the nation is concerned. ये सूझबूझ की सरकार है. When you say सूझबूझ की सरकार है, corruption free. There were people in the government who would wear suits and indulge in corruption and hang around in the corridors of power.
I think it's
so I think let's not mix up clothes. Sure. You are wearing, why don't you come and interview me, and why do you say, Mr. Rudy, why don't you wear something which fits into the camera? I'll help you out in that way. I'll wear, thus looking neat, clean, effective.
So you don't basically consider it as a political mistake?
These things are insignificant in a system. We are here first to deliver for a common man, for a poor, for a farmer, for a villager, for a housewife, for a scheduled tribe, for people living in tribal areas, for the youth.
Point taken. But I'll have to take a break here. On the other side, we talk about the Skill India mission of the NDA government. Back in a moment.
India's star shining in global affairs.
The professional army of any country does not have faith, piety and jihad in the name of God.
From regional power to assertive global leader.
Sri Lanka denies that these violations took place.
We want India to be a superpower. We have been doing everything for decades, and we have been giving to India everything best we have.
Experts debate the nation's foreign policy.
We should not have any political preference of ours so far as Nepal is concerned.
Taliban were the creatures of Pakistan. Whatever people may say, they were created by Pakistan.
India's World with Bharat Bhushan on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching To The Point with Rajiv, Pratap, Rudy. Mr. Rudy, talking about the skill development program which you have initiated and which the BJP government is talking about. There have been skill programs earlier as well. So what is that value addition which your ministry is giving?
Yes, that is what needs to be understood now. And it's not that skills have started here. But if you look at the skills, what was happening in this country, China, which has a population of around 1.45 billion, 46% of the workforce is skilled in China. If you look at United Kingdom, 68% of the workforce is skilled. If you look at Germany, 74% of the workforce is skilled. If you look at Japan, it's about 80% of the workforce which is skilled. You look at Korea,
that's a
where the Prime Minister was there recently, Mr. Modi, was 96%. India, under the NSSO, we just have 2% of the workforce which is skilled. So if we have structured to make in India, we also have to create the similar manpower.
But are the country's basics right when you talk in context of India? Because you just given the example of South Korea where the skilled workforce is 96%, and that was basically because of the universalization of the primary education. But here in India, the scenario is that you still don't have teachers, you still you're struggling.
Again, I think you are both right and wrong. Right because you are talking about education, wrong because that is not skills. And we have not integrated in last 65 years skills as a part of education. We have talked about matriculates.
So are you planning to do that now?
Yes, let me complete. Yes, let me
education.
complete. Yes, skills in education should have been a part of the system for 65 years.
Okay.
It did not happen. We just started it. Now, when we are talking about it, we are there with a backlog because we are talking about lakhs and lakhs of crores have been spent. Now, you have graduates, you have postgraduates, you have BAs, you have MAs, but they're not employment. 17% of the engineering graduates in this country are not employable. 15% of the management graduates in this country are not employable. I'm not talking about all those who were on the lesser education. So when we are talking about education, this should have been inbuilt in the system of education that we are creating now. And when we are talking about
so are you in touch with the HRD ministry on this?
I'll explain. Give me a minute. The National Skills Qualification Framework. This is a qualification on entry level 1 to 10 where all skilling across the country has to be aligned, which was not happening. There were 24 ministries doing this job. We are trying to gradually align them. The state governments were doing in a one. Under AICTE, which is technical education, we had colleges and institutions giving technical education. But there wasn't much as far as skills are concerned.
Right.
Now we are going to create credit framework, which will talk about integrating school education to skills. Suppose after 9th, 10th, and 11th, 12th, we have 500 hours of 600 hours of classroom education, 400 hours of skill education. Then in 10th would be 500 hours of classroom training and 500 hours of skill. In 11th it would be 400 hours of classroom, 600 hours of skill. 12th would be 300 hours of classroom education and 700 hours of skilling.
So the standard
when this man comes out with a certificate, he will come out with a certificate, and if he wants to go for the industry after 12th, he can work in the industry, have a certificate for the period which is learning, and can migrate to do his BA or BSc laterally.
But Mr. Rudy, when it comes to Make in India and Skill India, it's like two sides of the same coin.
Make in India is, of course, an input which is required. A skill is a part of the Make in India. So Make in India, to make it successful, we have to create more skilled manpower workforce.
But Mr. Rudy, don't you think that there's too much of stress on manufacturing when actually the scenario of manufacturing is not too bright because India still is governed by...
That is what we have. If you want to create real capital and wealth,
it still is
then
driven by agriculture
industry which is manufacturing, I'll tell you, it has to go up from 10% to 20%. You require high capex to train such people for manufacturing. But we also have the GDP, if you see, the 60% is in the services, another 25% is in industry, and the rest is in agriculture and allied services. So we have the services sector where we have to create the great pool of manpower. We require it in industry and manufacturing, which is again require a different level and high investment. If you see investment, why we are talking about the government? When we talk about Germany today they talk about the dual vocational system. Right. Now the government spends about $3 billion. And the industry partners, they spend about $30 billion. So this partnership has to come from the industry also. Okay. So the corporates have to fall in line and they have to align with us to do this skilling, speed and skill.
Right. But from where will all the money come from, and what is the estimate?
That is a big question, and I think it has to go in a mission drive. The Prime Minister is absolutely committed.
When you say mission drive, is it going to be in a phased manner, like maybe in the first 3 years or 4 years?
We are planning to do how to go about it, and skills has to be a mission because we have lost about 60 years in that. Some of the states are doing very well. For example, the state of Chhattisgarh, it has made an act in the state legislature.
Okay.
There every man, individual, boy or a girl from the age group of 15 to 45 can walk up to the district magistrate and say that I want to be skilled, and the government pays the cost. So some of the states have moved far ahead. We are talking about skill universities, we are talking about multi-skill institutes, we are talking about the NSQF, which is the entry levels, we are talking about the qualification packs, we have built up the national occupation standards. Now all this has to be worked together, integrated, and we have to have national standards which is recognized internationally.
You also come out with a skill gap report, but is there any ambiguity on the number of people you are going to train maybe by 2022, because that's the benchmark which everyone is taking. Is it 500 million or is it 460 million? What is it?
The National Skill Development Policy announced in 2009 talked about training 500 million people. That was till 2017 it was 5 crore people, and next 45 crore by 2022. Now these are people, some of them already have skills who need to be skilled and certified or upskilled and certified. This 112 million skill gap report which has been announced is till 2022 is an additional skill requirement.
Okay.
So we also have to recognize the skill capacity of the country which has been existing. That means out of 500 million people in the unorganized sector, 54% is in agriculture sector. That means about 250 million people are left. We add about 1 million every month. So about 10 million in next 5 years, about 50 million. So 300 million people to be addressed. And at an average, 20,000 rupees is required on one head to be trained. Okay. And if we assume that out of 100 people, 30 people can pay for themselves, 70 people the government or the industry has to. So out of this 300 million people, 70% would mean around 20.
So you would require lakhs of crores.
So 220 million, 20,000 rupees, about 4.5 to 5 lakh crores, which means about 1 lakh of crore. That is why we see the government alone will create the facilitation, will create the blueprint, will create the roadmap, Industry has to partner us
But
to
sir, don't
do
you
this
think that
exercise.
the target is too high? Because in 2009, from 2009, some only 2 crore people were skilled. And from since
Yes, but at least a
2014,
beginning has been made. You cannot overdo it. You cannot let these things are dealing with humans. You are not manufacturing. It's not production. It is building up the capacity of individuals, which should have been done as a part of the integral education system in last 60 years. So at least someone, the Prime Minister, at least had an eye, and he could see that, look, this is how it is not. He had an experience of Gujarat. And I'm so proud and happy that he has given me an assignment, which is the one of the most, because I have to deal with human beings. I have not to set up a factory. I have to deal with human beings. And you just look in your own setup in a Raj Sabha studio. How many of these people? We have a sector skill council on media and entertainment, where skills in the media and entertainment sector, all those who run these cameras, all those who put the wire, all those who set this up,
sir, but,
these are all skills.
But sir, honestly speaking, I know of government departments where they are undergoing skill tests on the people who are already in the industry for about 15 to 16 years. So is there any logic behind,
Yes, that is called
behind
recognition.
undertaking a
Recognition
skill
of
test?
prior learning. Everyone who is working somewhere needs to be certified and assessed what is his capacity, so that he can walk up and grow from X level to Y level.
Coming to the parliamentary affairs, how is the government really going to muster numbers in Rajya Sabha,
Why do you have to,
given the fact...
Why do you have to politics is all about numbers. We have a majority in the Lok Sabha, so we do not have any problem whatsoever. We try to take people along as far as numbers and getting the legislation passed in the Lok Sabha. The mandate which exists in the Raj Sabha, it's an honorable house, is a mandate which possibly came through previous governments as it comes with representation, and they are larger in numbers. So they are taking advantage of those positions to at times stall certain important legislation. But I can tell you, they have also come along, if it's a black money bill, or for the GST, which has gone to a select committee, or for that matter, the land reforms, which has gone to a joint committee. Opposition is not an enemy of the system. They want the space, we'll give them the space, we'll argue with them, we'll consult with them, we'll convince them. And I'm sure all this thing which is good for the country, because you will have to remember, the country has given a mandate to the Lok Sabha to give a Prime Minister. And we also have a Prime Minister from the Lok Sabha now.
But as far as the budget session is concerned, you think that...
Just a second. So we have a mandate, we will try, we have to deliver, we have to answer the people of this country after 5 years. So whatever is correct, we will carry it forward. It's good in democracy that we have
But Mr.
some...
Rudy, would you not agree somewhere down the line that given the budget session, somewhere down the line, the floor management was something which the government really lacked?
Where? In the Lok Sabha or the Raj Sabha?
In Rajya Sabha.
Because the numbers are not there. What is a floor management? If you are obstinate and not beyond logic because you are there elected and you have something to say, that is not floor management.
Because off the record, Congress leaders have said that
Congress leaders,
BJP is getting the taste of the same medicine which they were...
No, absolutely no taste of bitter medicine. It is because they are trying to play around with the numbers. And let them play around with the numbers. They should be playing around with the numbers. But still, I would say the opposition came along and they passed several legislations, and the performance of the Lok Sabha and the Raj Sabha has been 123% as compared to any other session held in Parliament in the last 15 years.
Okay, coming to the way you manage the state elections, this is the last bit of the interview. You did wonderfully well in Maharashtra. Now, from a few months from now on, you'll have Bihar to manage. Given the fact that Janata Parivar has come together, are you really scared somewhere down the line that probably BJP would not do well?
Janata Parivar is a group of obsolete and redundant people who have been, like Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav, who is a lapsed force. If you read the label on that, it's like an expiry, he's expired. And Nitish Kumar emerged in Bihar politics on the misdeeds of Lalu Prasad Yadav. Now today, Nitish Kumar wants to shake hands with Lalu Prasad Yadav. His fundamental philosophy of serving the state of Bihar was telling the people of Bihar that this man called Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav is responsible for the Jungle Raj. So they established their footprints, and now he says hello to Lalu Prasad Yadav because he's scared of the BJP.
Right.
So they want to bring the numbers, but unfortunately Bihar is about caste.
Yeah, that's what I was coming to. Because when you talk about the calculation of the caste arithmetic, don't you think that the things are in favor of the Janata
Bihar
Party?
has suffered so much on caste. So still all of you are very happy and convinced that there is a caste of Lalu Prasad Yadav and Nitish Kumar. So they will come together and with some other factors of MY unity, and then you will form a government. This is the philosophy of people like you who want to make Bihar be excellent. This time Bihar will go out of it. As it went out of the parliament
hinting
elections.
at the fact that caste doesn't play a role at all
Caste
in Bihar.
plays a role. Now this time Bihar is over and above caste. They have seen enough. A state which I don't want to make a reference about my state. I am a part of, spent 25 years, started as an MLA and got elected 3 times, contesting Lalu Prasad Yadav in last 30 years, always fighting him out and even defeating him today, this time when I am in parliament. So let's not forget, and I can speak English.
So you are a progressive face of Bihar.
But you would appreciate, most of my journalist colleagues would recognize Lalu Yadav as a big workforce because he does, and he speaks that foul language and he performs that, and he comes to the central hall and his gimmicks are appreciated as a mass leadership, while I defeat his wife and come, and I have the Prime Minister's backing to say that, look, BJP is there, BJP is along with me, BJP has the state. Now BJP is going to remain on the forefront in Bihar politics.
But as far as Bihar BJP is concerned, Mr. Rudy's face is a progressive one. So do you think that you would be in the Chief Minister's race?
No. Let's not confuse it. I have a very ambitious assignment here. And we have excellent leadership in the state of Bihar. And please do not make these utterances because I will not get excited at all. I have a huge task in the government. Mr. Modi has assigned me a responsibility which is possibly occasions gives me nightmares, but nonetheless, but I have my heart and soul in Bihar.
So you wouldn't want to go back to Patna?
Everything. Our fundamental objective in Bihar and my lifetime ambition is Bihar, to see a BJP government in Bihar, and that is what we are working. Okay. Leadership is a non-issue. We have established leaders in Bihar. They are working very hard, and we will stand by them to give this impetus.
Pleasure, Mr. Rudy, talking to you and taking questions from a state bank.
Thank you.
So that's it on this episode of To The Point. See you next time with another personality. Goodbye and thanks for watching.